Hi, welcome. My name is Dale Mccluskey, and this video is part 2 of how to rehabilitate the aggressive dog. In part 1 of my video, I discussed the issue about controlling bad outcomes, using the crate effectively to help to impact the decision making of the dog. And I just want to continue a little more about the crate issue. I mean, the crate itself, it's very important to control your dog's ability to hang around areas and to interact in ways that are going to empower the mind. Okay, so because once a dog has a level of power through the roles, once a dog has taken the lead role within the pack relationship, you're going to see the dog is wanting to hang out in areas and attach themselves to people that represent empowerment, weakness. This is why when a dog has a lot of power, when they're around emotional people, it's not going to fix anything. It's just going to make the issue worse with dogs because the psychology involved is this permissive and emotional type of connection represents weakness to the dog. It's the same thing as kids that are around permissive parents that say the word yes more than no. It feeds into this type of narcissistic thinking and this type of selfish behavior that leads to a path of objectifying the parent. It's not a deep love. And so with dogs, it parallels the exact same way. And the problem here is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to problems because of the type of psychology that's at play. The dog owner is going to see this possessive state differently. They're going to see it as fulfilling this type of love need, the self-projecting type of a need for of that type of a bond, and it becomes very, very difficult to get the dog owner to see anything differently. So, because usually when a dog is at the aggressive stage, that usually follows that same psychology, that type of, it's an indicator that the dog owner has established a very emotional type of connection that's being perceived as weakness. And this is the thing to understand with dogs, and this is why this makes it so difficult to get people to change, because at the level of petting and touching your dog and the type of bond that's there, yes, the dog absolutely is going to like it. Okay, the tail will wag, that you're touching, you're petting all over your dog, but at the same time, what you're also telling your dog, communicating through this type of bond you've established, is you're saying that you're weak. I mean, that's how the dog. There's no balance. There's not a you're not within the authoritative parenting type style. You're not in competition for the role. So you're not a threat and to the role, and the dog is objectifying you. So that's why you'll see when the dog is with these type of dog owners, the dog will lash out and go after other people at a much higher level because it empowers the mind that way. And the spouse or the other people will actually see the problem, but the dog owner will be totally in denial. And so even after people get bitten, and then the dog ends up being given away. So this is a very difficult issue because it is fixable. That's the thing. The dog is just being a dog. The dog's taking the role based on shared connection and what they're assessing from that connection itself, the psychology that's at work, that's in play. So the crate is a way to start to manage it, to start to, I use the crate as a way to step back also so I can gain perspective. Perspective is something that's critical here. You have to start to change how you think. You have to get in competition, and your ability to be objective does require you to start to get down to the animal level, to start to become almost indifferent, so to speak, until you can start to see things differently, so the dog starts to get a sense that you are indeed in competition for that role. And the crate too is part of the plan to put a structure in place so no bad outcomes are going to happen, because this is the trust issue. When a dog has a certain level of power, never make assumptions. Because your dog is in certain areas of the home or interacting with certain people, once that dog has expressing that state of mind, and it triggers fear from people, it's like a drug. Power is the drug of choice with dogs, and what it does is it's just like it'd be like snorting a line of cocaine. When the dog is out, hanging around different areas, it becomes fulfilling to the dog, because that's what they want. They want that power. They're going to express that power. So that need is going to be there. So they're going to be, hanging around doorways, because doorways represent an entry point where they can express power that way. It's a whole different context once a dog starts to have a level of power. You'll see them at windows. You'll see them hanging around doorways. You'll see them up on couches, areas of elevation, okay, so that they can express that. And so you need to start to target those areas. That's where the crate comes in, and start to pull the dog's mind back. So the whole context here is start to change how the dog thinks. You want to repaint the landscape. You want to change those areas into the dog being in those areas as a follower, not in a lead role like that. So the whole focus is starting to target the dog's decision making in conjunction with using the crate. And the other issue too is, the dog isn't going to be in the crate. I'm not suggesting dogs in the crate 24/7. The dog is in and out of the crate quite a bit. So, for example, if you're busy and you're doing something, you could be doing whatever around the house, and you don't have the time commitment to be at your dog enough to make a little bit of an impact, and you just things are going on and you're just busy. You want to crate your dog. It could be for a half an hour. Put your dog in the crate, do your thing. But there's times too during you have to start to, and this is where you want to put up baby gates and keep your dog within your immediate area. But the whole issue of the area the dog is in, the dog needs to be in that area as you're starting to become a leader. So it's like electricity in the air. The dog should definitely feel that you're becoming the real deal. And this is where these moments start to happen, where you're just going to be going over to the dog when the dog looks okay, and we'll talk about this, because it's the issue of perception. Just because a dog looks okay doesn't mean the dog's okay at all. Okay, the dog is perceiving you as their follower in a very weak way. It'd be just like, again, a child that perceives a parent through the lens of being narcissistic and selfish. And then you ask yourself the question, well, if I've given away my parental influence, how do I get it back if I'm not kind of messing with them? That's the whole thing. You're going to be in their bedroom a little bit. You're going to be saying, hey, where are you going? And that's when you're going to get kickback. If you've given your parental influence away to your child, and you start to get into their airspace, so to speak, you're going to get kickback. But I believe that every kid, deep down, even though they rebel against that and they may push back because they're the ones that have been in power, so to speak, making their own decisions, and that's normal anyway. Growing up a little bit, you're going to that's part of growing up. So there's a balance there between influence and control and all those things as you're establishing parental influence, but still there's levels of that. That's the whole thing. So, but as you're invoking to authoritative parenting style, a balanced approach, you're going to get some kickback. But deep down, I believe every kid, they want the parent that cares. It's not that you don't care. It's just the opposite. You love your kid enough that you want to know they're making good decisions, and that's part of parenting. Well, this is the same as with dogs. Even though you're starting to invoke leadership authority or put authority over your dog, nature understands that. In fact, your dog, even though there's challenge there, trust me, it makes sense to the dog. This whole issue of challenge is not a bad thing. Okay, actually you're going to get some kickback, but we're doing it in a way that we have the dog's best interest at heart. That's the thing here. So it'd be different if you're coming in just on a rampage and you're just aggressively putting your dog on its back and just doing it, and you're going to get bitten anyway. That's not what we're doing here. You see the methodology I'm using. I'm using the sit position. I'm playing off that interaction to create these moments. Okay, I'm just taking, and that's what you do. You're just taking hold of your dog's collar. If your dog's expressing a lot of power, you're going to want to use the leash more to control that, so you can bring your dog into you, and then you're just going to put your dog into the sit position just by pushing on the back, and then you're going to be focusing on pushing on the upper back to put more influence over the mind, and you'll see your dog's head turn into you. So what you're doing within your dog's airspace, so to speak, you're just going over when your dog looks okay, and you're going to put these methods on your dog. You're going to put this interaction onto your dog. The whole point here is to target your dog's decision making. It's the wow factor. Okay, the dog will start to connect a different dot, and that's the thing about this. It's not that you're waiting for anything to happen, because then that represents just reactive psychology, and then you're just responding to the bad behavior. You can kind of look at this as kind of like a heart change issue. It'd be like you'd be chasing your kid around, just picking up the pieces and dealing with the bad behaviors or whatever, and trying, but not really change anything. How do you change the heart? It's just like the whole thing with connection here. How do you change your dog's decision making at the core? You're going to be more proactive, okay? And not just that, is that as you're becoming the real deal, your dog really senses that the holes are closing in your psychology, that you're becoming the leader that the dog needs. And that in itself, even without barely touching on your dog, is going to make an impact. That's why, when you're have a certain personality type, and this is important to understand this, it really is. If you have a certain way of thinking, and it's more of an assertive, confident type of person, and that's the connection you're establishing with your dog, even these high drive dogs. That's why police officers don't have you don't see the drama, because role changes happen in the moment that the dog comes in, enters that person's life, because it's connection. Okay, the touch and all those things, that's part of it. But the reason I invoke why you're pushing is to actually change the psychology itself. Is to force the tachometer over. So so therefore, when you see people that have dogs, and you say, "Well, Dale, I just had a great dog. I mean, this pit bull I had, or whatever the high drive dog is, I mean, it's truly balanced, and I haven't taken any formalized training." Well, I say, well, yeah. I mean, you look at start talking to the person, look at the personality type of the person. There's your answer. It's not about all these treats and clickers and all that. The problem with all those things is when people go towards those, typically it represents the person's psychology is very weak. And it's all about connection. So the thing to do here is understand it's about not about quantity, how much you're doing. It's about quality. It's about the real deal. Whether you're just going through the motions or whether what you're doing is reflecting that you're changing. Because the dog really does sense that. Dogs know whether you're the real deal or going through the motions. So that's what you're doing within the confines of starting to pull the mind back in, use the crate, start to put up barriers, keep the dog within your airspace while you're targeting the dog's decision-making process. So anyway, this is part 2. I'm gonna, when I talk about part 3, I'll go more in some of these details and give you some more tips. But anyway. Hopefully you got something out of this video. I just encourage you to check out my website. I'm gonna have lots of free videos on there for people. And anyway, just take care and have a great day.